Hello, Kris here, Telly, episode 52, and possibly the last episode of the year. I'm not entirely sure yet, but it's a big one. It's an extravaganza. It is my, caveat, in my opinion, albums of the year 2023. Right, I've got lots of notes, I've got lots of media around me and stuff like so hopefully I won't fuck this up. But yeah, there's lots to get through, so I'm going to be reasonably quick. Very brief update first. Green Sabre have done our last rehearsal of the year. Yeah, all good. We'll be back at it in the new year. And yeah, all good. And another song that we're working on, which we probably should have been working on beforehand. But anyway, hindsight and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, all good. So yeah, 2024 promises to get off with a bang on that one. So yeah, all going. Crow's Blood update finished. We put the final touches. I had a vocal track I needed to do for it. So the final touches have been done. We just need to kind of mix it now and get all the levels spot on, and then that should be out in the sometime early in 2024, hopefully. So yeah, watch this space. Really pleased with it. It's come out, I think, better than any of us imagined, quite honestly. So yeah, it's a great project, great fun. We were around at Dan Mullins's studio on Saturday, just putting the finishing touches. Me and Lee, shout out Lee. And yeah, it's great. I can't wait for you to hear it. So yeah, really looking forward to that. And my other that I've been dangling for a few weeks now, or such like that. So the announcement video has been recorded, so it's just all getting sort of tinkered with, edited up, and so on and so forth. So that'll probably be out by this coming weekend, I'd have thought, something like that. So I have announcements. So basically, just I'll leave it so that you can all get dead excited about it as such like. But yeah, I've joined a let's just say an established band as such like. So I'm very excited to let you all know about this. So yeah, I can't wait. So yeah, 2024 is going to be mega busy, but great fun. So yeah, I was round at my mate's house recording the announcement video for that. So yeah, all good. So yeah, should be something out in a week maybe. It shouldn't be too long anyway. But yeah, watch this space. Very excitable. Right, okay, enough updates. Albums of the year 2023. Let's cut to the chase. So it's been another mammoth year for releases. And straight off the bat, I do need to just clarify that, yeah, there will be some people out there with albums of the year that I don't even touch on today, because there is only so much time to listen to stuff. So the way that I compile this list is based on, A, what I've fucking heard for a start off, so that's always useful. B, what I've most lost myself in. What have I listened to most over the year? So that is pretty much how I gauge it. Yeah, there'll be albums that sort of come out, but I might have only listened to them once or twice, and then I don't honestly feel like I can gauge. There's probably one coming up in the list that I haven't listened to probably many more than 2 or 3 times, but it's that good, it deserves to be in there. But anyway, we'll get to that point. But yeah, with other stuff, I figure if I've not really listened to it more than a couple of times, then I don't think I can truly gauge whether that's album of the year material and stuff like that. Obviously, there'll be somebody that have had way more listens than others and so on and so forth. So yeah, essentially, that's my criteria. I've got to have I don't necessarily have to have bought it. I know there's a school of thought that's sort of like, well, if you think it's that good, you'll get the physical media. Again, as I've explained several times, I'm running out of space, so I can't just get physical media of fucking everything that I like and that I want and that's essential and blah blah and all that. So I've got to kind of box clever with it. So there's probably a 50-50 split of vinyl and CD for a start off here, and another load of stuff that will just be an image in your bottom corner as such like, because I only own the downloads of it as such like. So I do purchase all music. Some of it be download though, there'll be a few that I do want to order physical media of, but I've just not got around to it yet. So yeah, that's my criteria. Albums of the year, I've got to have fucking heard the thing for a start off, yeah, and all that. So yeah, if the album that you think's album of the year isn't in here, then I likely either A, don't like it, or B, haven't heard it. So yeah. So I did an album of the year 2022, and it is comfortably my most watched video bar fucking none. It's had like 1,200, 1,300 views, insane amounts compared to what I normally average, which is around the 100 and 130 mark, usually, something like that. So what I wanted to say was, what made albums of the year last year. I'm not going to go a great amount of detail because we've already done 5 minutes and I've not even fucking touched on this one yet. But Arth got my album of the year. I've still consistently listened to that. It is such a good record. It finished number 1 of 2022's records, and if I could place it any higher, I would. What a record. Thy Listless Heart, I had that down as my number 9, I think, and that would be top 5 without a doubt now. A cracking album that really grew on me over the... Not that I was impressed with it straight off the bat, but I didn't immerse myself in it properly, I don't think, until a few months afterwards, and then I realised, yeah, this is fantastic. So that will be higher up than last year's 9th spot. Bloodhouse Nord, Disharmonium, which is one of a few Disharmonium albums, I believe, as such. I rated that, where did I put it? I think it was 8th in last year's listing, and I think that will be higher, but I will touch on that later on, because of course Bloodhouse Nord released another one of the Disharmonium run this year, but I'll talk about that then. Conan finished my number 2, and that's still steady. I think it's comfortably Conan's best record, that one from last year. So yeah, there's a few, there might be a few, but I'm not going to go into the ones that have dropped, that probably will have dropped out of that top 25, because I bet you there's about 4 or 5 albums that were in my top 25 of albums of 2022 that I haven't listened to since. So, yeah, anyway. So I just wanted to touch on those. So, firstly, albums that I thought were great, but that didn't really, honestly, ever kind of push for the top 25. So, where are we? Ohms, who folded this year. Their last gig was Damnation, which I was at, but I missed their performance because I was watching something else at the same time. So, such is really like Ohms. I like most of their back catalogue and stuff, and this were a decent album, but decent, not great as such. Like so, Cattle Decapitation. Everyone raved about that. I thought it was all right, but it never really, honestly, threatened the top 25. Quite frankly. Sanguicissus, whatever they're fucking called. Again, it was all right. Yeah, not bad. Didn't really threaten my top 25. Host. Now, I've been quite vocal about how I don't like that dive into pop music that ultimately that Paradise Lost went on, and they kind of lost me in that era. But that Host album that Greg and Nick released this year, I thought was really, really good and great. Now, the argument here could be, well, I thought you hated that kind of shit. No, I don't hate it. I just don't think it has any place in Paradise Lost's back catalogue, personally. I think it should be saved for side projects like Host. And I thought that was a pretty decent album, but it didn't make my top 25. Memoriam, that came out really early in the year. Was it January? Something like that. Cracking bit of death metal, really heavy. Great. They're not bolt thrower though, are they? Let's face it. And I think that's the only reason they suffer Memoriam, is they're kind of like a budget bolt thrower, if you will. And yeah, so, but I liked the album, don't get me wrong. I thought it was decent, but it didn't threaten my top 25. And I'll just sort of... Trivax, decent record. That only came fairly recently, I think, but that was all right, really good. Prong came back with a bang. Much, much better than a lot of their later era fucking stuff by a country mile. And it feels like they've sort of hit a bit of form again. So I did enjoy that Prong album, what I heard of it. Not in my top 25, though. And finally, Catatonia. I just can't... There's a Ghost vibe to something. Now, I quite like a bit of Ghost, as I've mentioned before. Generally, the earlier stuff, the first 3. But yeah, they've lost me with the new modern stuff, really, Ghost. But Catatonia, I think because I really liked the first couple of albums so much by Catatonia, this is just, it feels like a different band to me, and I can't really get into the modern Catatonia. So, yeah, I suppose it was all right, but it didn't threaten my top 25. Albums that did threaten my top 25, and I'm going to have honourable mentions / nearly misses. Right. There are a lot of guys on the in the Yorkshire doom scene. Shout out to all of you, Ace. And some cracking albums came out, and they were close, but they haven't made my top 25, sadly. So I will mention Wolves in Winter, I Am Void, that I picked up from one of our gigs with them as such. Great album. Yeah, the Wolves in Winter album, really, really great. My mate Marco in Hell Lust, a cracking album, didn't quite make my top 25. Sound of Origin, brilliant record. Alice in Chains vibe. Joel's voice is just off the scale, fantastic. Didn't quite make my top 25 though, but again, maybe because that came later in the year and I've not really had a chance to fully sort of immerse myself in it. Elder Seer, this came out really early in the year. Shout out Baz. Great record, really enjoyed that. Yeah, so fantastic. Tyrannus, another great record, but didn't quite make my top 25. Nearly misses the Dodd Heimsgard album. I quite liked that, but I do agree with that school of thought that it's a little bit up its own arse. It does feel like an element of artsiness for the sake of it in places. I think it's very good, and I think they've touched on something that is very unique and stuff, and I did like that record. Didn't make my top 25 though. I just felt there's that very fine line between pretentious and artsy, and I feel like they might have just crossed that, but I did enjoy it. So yeah, very close. The new Marduk album. Marduk do what Marduk do, and I love, I mean, obviously, you know, Panzer Division and a few of the earlier sort of classics, fantastic records. And it's not like they're reinventing the wheel at any point. It's just classic all-out Marduk. I don't know, I just feel like I wanted a little bit more out of them, and I listened to that album for a bit and kind of haven't really been back, to be quite honest with you. It didn't grab me like other classic Marduk have, so that's the reason why it didn't make my top 25. Baroness, bit of a welcome return to form, because Golden Grey, the album that came out, was it 2019 or whenever it was? I couldn't really get into that. There was just something about it that didn't have the resonance that the earlier... I mean, I'm a big fan of Purple by Baroness. I think that's a great record, production withstanding, but I really enjoy that. But Golden Grey, there were nothing that for me to get my teeth into really with that one. Stone, this year's release, I feel is a bit of a return to form, and it's a really good record, and very nearly made my top 25, but not quite. Enslaved, really good record, again just outside that top 25 though. And the other one I was going to mention is Panopticon, new album out fairly recently. I really enjoy what I've heard, and that maybe with a few more weeks of listening might have made the top 25, but at the minute I don't feel I know it well enough for it to qualify, so that's the only reason that wasn't in there. I'm also going to rattle through a lot of EPs that came out this year that some absolute blinders, and if they were full lengths would be in this list comfortably, but they're EPs, so they don't count, sadly. So right, let's fire through them. Son of Boar, Satanic Panic single, great stuff, great lads as well, Son of Boar. The Penny Coffin EP, that is fabulous, really good. Sacred Sun, Prevolver, I count that as an EP personally. It's like 5 tracks, black metal, atmospheric, 27-28 minutes. But I've considered that an EP, otherwise that might have got in my top 25. Monolord came out with a single, really good. Monolord do what Monolord do. Black Birch, Swedish duo, black metal duo. I was going to say duet then, not really quite. But yeah, they came out with an EP. I think it was only 2 songs, so probably an extended single really. But that was cracking, really enjoyed that. The Wolves in the Throne Room EP, really good, but an EP. Eternal Rot EP, that was absolute class, cracking. That would have been top 10 had it been full length. And I'll tell you another one that would have been top 10 had it been full length, and I've forgotten to dig it out. So let me just try and find it here. Here it is. This. Hats off Rick, and the rest of the Malediction guys, because this is a masterpiece. Absolute belter. What a piece of work. 30 years without anything, and then wham, they come out with this. Maybe leave it another 30 years, lads, and you'll get another masterpiece. But I think they're going to be quite busy next year. I'm right looking forward to what comes from Malediction. Great guys. Caught up with them at the My Dying Bride and Paradise Lost gig recently in Bradford. Shout out, lads. Always good to see you. This is a masterpiece. If you don't own it, get out there and do so. Brilliant album. And were it not an EP, like I say, would easily be top 10 this year, personally. So, cracker. Do we go through dishonourable mentions? Fuck it, why not? Dishonourable mentions. Well, Cannibal Corpse, yes, it's good, but I just find I'm just so bored of them. I know there's a lot of... and they do death metal really, really well. And I think having Eric Rutan now in the band has added a real element of quality on that guitar. But they just bore me. I don't... They're not a band that I'll go out and look at. And I've listened to some of that now. It's like, yeah, it's all right. It's all right. It's just not... I don't know what it is about it that it doesn't grab me. So, yeah. I could mention Metallica. I mean, I feel like I did a sort of video about this, the 72 Seasons video back earlier in the year. And it's garbage for the most part. It is. It's just Metallica with zero filter anymore. And it feels like they're slowly sort of getting round to as if, all right, yeah, maybe we need to think a bit harder on them. But again, it just felt like they left it 6 or 7 years or whatever it was between records again, and then just put everything out that they've written in that period. Wham! Right, let's do a fucking album that goes on for bastard ever. And it's a really middling, maudlin, mid-tempo, just shite. So, yeah. And the other album I thought was shite, which is going to annoy quite a few of you on here, is the new Obituary. I just was not a fan of it at all. That wrong, what's it called? The Wrong Time, or whatever it is. Just with that horrible, happy, lazy riff that sits throughout it. Just Obituary of always, they've rode that cusp. It's really, really simplistic riffs, and there's nothing wrong with that when it's done right. The simplicity of it. I think Massacre were another great example of bands that were really, really simple, but effective for 1 or 2 records. And personally, that's the Obituary thing with me. It's too simple at times, and there's only so long you can keep doing that. I prefer John Tardy's earlier vocals than his modern ones. They're a little bit over the top, his modern. It's like he went from doing albums where he only had about 4 lines on the whole thing and then just made it up for the rest of it, to having loads of lyrics now that he wants to overpronounce. And anyway, it didn't out for me. That, forget the name of it. Anyway, the new Obituary did nothing for me. So, dishonourable mentions. Right, that'll do. Let's cut to the top 25 because nearly 20 minutes and I've not even fucking started. So, I'm going to rattle through these because probably over the year I've said a lot about them anyway. So, let's get to it. Okay. Oh, I've gone too far, guys. Right, let's get back. Oh, technology. Right, 25. I'm coming in at 25 is only on the downloads of insert image Wayfarer with American Gothic. There's a school of thought that it's a bit gimmicky what Wayfarer do, and it's clearly a gimmick. It's like sort of the Wild West in black metal form. It's like the American Frontier, American Western done to a black metal soundtrack. And I love it. I really, really like it. I think it takes me to the Red Dead games. So that's sort of like, I feel that there'd be a good soundtrack to the Red Dead Redemption games. And I love it. I love that kind of use of all the old instruments from the time as well, over the top of these sort of churning black metal riffs. And I think it's really, really good. It's 20. It might have got higher, but again, it came out later in the year, and I don't feel I've had time to really properly adjust to it. But I've listened to it a number of times, and I really, really enjoyed it. So that's why Wayfarer with American Gothic is my 25 of the year. My 24 of the year was an album that came out sort of early summer. And yeah, shout out Stu from Roots of the Old Oak. And I think this is a cracking record. The Devil and His Wicked Ways. I was trying to remember the fucking name of it then. There's probably a track on it. Yeah, there it is, staring me in the face. But yeah, just death doom, if you will. Straight up. Doesn't really deviate from what it does, but what it does, I feel like it does really, really well. And yeah, there's probably been loads of there'll be somebody out there screaming saying there was this death doom band that was miles better than that, this and this and this, but I probably didn't hear all of them. This one I did hear though, and because I know Stu from the band, shout out Stu, but maybe that's why I took more time with it. But I'm glad that I did. I think it's a cracking record, and yeah, so that's why Roots of the Old Oak comes in at my number 24. My number 23, and this time it is another image. So insert image here. My 23 is Sol and Varma with their self-titled album from this year, Sol and Varma. Icelandic band, and I think Sol and Varma is literally translated as sun without warmth, or so cold sun, or whatever you want to call it. I really, really enjoyed this record. And yeah, just felt I listened when it came out. I listened to it fairly rigidly for a month or two, and just classic. There's black metal in there, there's death metal in there, there's doom metal in there. The production's really, really nice. The vocals are nice, and it just creates an amazing atmosphere. And I really, really liked it. Yeah, so there's probably not much more I can say on it than that one. But yeah, Sol and Varma with their self-titled album, Icelandic Genius, and I will be keeping an eye out for everything else that they do after this, really. But yeah, so that's why that made my number 23. My number 22, and again, I will insert image shortly, but I just wanted to say that this was a much higher up. Originally, when it came out, I was thinking top 10. This is cracking. But over the year, it's a slip down, and I still think it's decent, but I just think this band have done a lot better than this. I am talking about my number 22, Lamp of Murmur, with the album, remind me, Saturnian Bloodstorm, of course. Anyway, image inserted. Really, really good. Slick production on it, sort of slick black metal production anyway. I missed the opportunity to see him in Leeds this year as well, gone, which was a shame. But anyway, one of those things. But I really, really enjoyed this. Like I say, I loved it when it came out. It was great. It ticked all the boxes. And I'll be honest, I didn't know much about Lamp of Murmur until I heard this. I've been recommended it by one of you guys on YouTube. Absolutely loved it. And like I say, it was top 10 clearly. And then I discovered their back catalogue and realised that Lamp of Murmur had a lot more to them. They're a one-man project, I think. Something like that. So, yeah. The back catalogue's got so much variety to it. And this, when you hear that back catalogue and come back to Saturnian Bloodstorm, it doesn't quite have that variety. It's very good at what it does. And it is still an absolutely cracking album. And that's why it's number 22 in my list. But, yeah, it just wore off on me as the year went by. So maybe if I'd left it another couple of months, it might have slipped out entirely. But it didn't. It stayed at my number 22. So that's Lamp of Murmur. Number 21. And another image inserted because I didn't act fast enough on this one. But again, very much like a band I'm going to talk about later on, you lot out there in the YouTube community have done naught but bang on about this band. Anyway, I've seen them live since this year. They were great. They were worthy of being banged on about. It is, of course, Coffin Mulch with their... I've forgotten the name of the fucking record again. Spectral Intercession. There we go. Image inserted. A rip-roaring album, and unashamedly, it feels like to me that if you wanted an album between Clandestine of Entombed to carry on in the same vein as Left Hand Path and Clandestine before they changed tact and moved into Wolverine Blues, if you wanted more of that, this feels like that is where it should have sat. It is unashamedly early 90s Entombed. And it's great for it. It's brilliant. Yeah, it is not reinventing the wheel in any sense whatsoever. But it's part of, I think I alluded to on an earlier video, that a lot of modern death metal doesn't do a massive amount for me. But there is a new wave of British bands and all over the globe, of course, coming out, which I'm finding really interesting. Eternal Rot, Malediction, and Coffin Mulch come into that. And... yeah, it's just a cracker. It's straight up death metal classic. It ticks all the boxes and highly recommend. I didn't act quick enough, as I was just saying, so missed out on all the physical media. As far as I'm aware, it's all fucking sold out. I'll probably find something expensive on Discogs, but I'm happy with the download of it. But yeah, an absolute cracker. So that's why that's my number 21. My number 20, and there'll be people rolling your eyes now, but I like this band, and I don't care what any of you have to say. Queens of the Stone Age, In Times New Roman. I like Queens of the Stone Age. I like everything that they've done. Yes, some albums are a lot weaker than others, and a lot of people have a problem with Josh Homme. Rightly so, wrongly so, whatever. I'm not really asked. I'm not here to talk about that. I enjoyed this album a lot. I think because their previous album, Villains, was a bit of a disappointment, if we're all brutally honest. This feels like he's back on track. And with all that sort of extracurricular shit going on in the background in his life, I think it's helped create a really, really good record. I like this a lot. And yeah, I think it is justified as being number 20, did I say? Number 20, yeah. So, yeah, you might not like it. I do. It's my top 25, so just get used to the idea. Number 20, Queens of the Stone Age. Cracking return to form, I felt. Good album. My number 19, and again, I've not got the physical media yet because I've found it and it's really fucking expensive. And, you know, I'm a Yorkshire skinflint, so... But my number 19, insert image, Crosses. Chino Moreno of Deftones fame, his latest incarnation. Side project, of course, he's still doing the Deftones thing. But I love Chino's voice and I love his pop sensibilities that he brings in at Deftones. The only Deftones album I don't own is the first one, Adrenaline. Because I flat out don't like it. It's a new metal album. And it's not aged well, and it's all that kind of rappy, hip-hoppy fucking nonsense mixed with metal, and it doesn't out for me. Everything since then, I think, is stellar. So for me, personally, Deftones start at around the fur. That's when Deftones begin for me. I kind of ignore that debut album. And everything since then is just fucking brilliant. And I love what he does with this Crosses. If you want kind of a more modern Deftones vibe, mixed with 80s pop synth like Depeche Mode and Tears for Fears and that kind of thing, then this is right up your street. And again, they don't disappoint. I feel like they've got 2 or 3 albums out now and a few EPs and this, that and everything. But I absolutely loved this. And this might have been higher up. I had to sort of seriously think about this. But where did I put it? 19. I think deservedly so. I think there's 18 others that are better than this. But I really, really enjoyed this. So yeah, my 19, Crosses. With, what was it called? Very convoluted album title. Good night, God bless, I love you, delete. Nice. Anyway, great album. That's why it's my number 19. My number 18, and again, another image inserted. I did find this on Bandcamp, but the postage was through the bastard roof. Insert image, my number 18, Vegas with Inter. German black metal band, atmospheric black metal band. I mean, look at that album cover. That's what you can expect in musical form. It creates such a good atmosphere. It's slower, more brooding black metal style, slightly more lo-fi in production, but an absolute belter. I really enjoyed this. I listened to this album a lot over the year. Yeah, it ticked all the boxes for me, and I think it's a fucking belter. So if you've not heard it, check it out. If you like, it's not all about the blast. It's some lower paced, mid paced, and just some great atmosphere with the kind of ethereal black metal vocal style over the top of it. Yeah, Vegas, German black metal with Inter, cracking, and that's why it's my number 18. My number 17, and I still haven't got around to buying this, and it's a really, really good album and came out really early on January, if I remember rightly. It is this. I think it's called Odium. Yes, Odium by Vothrosh. I think the Greek, if I want to say the Greek, but this album is so heavy. There's a kind of modern Gaia feel to it. Death, black and death, if you will. Yeah, I'd say it sits more in the kind of death metal vein than the black metal vein, but there's enough of both to combine the two forces. So heavy. There's some blistering tracks on this album. And yeah, I think I discovered it via, is it the Jackie on the Into the Necrosphere channel. I think he recommended it, went out and checked it out, and I was not disappointed. Brutally, blisteringly heavy stuff. Cracking album. And my number 17. My number 16. A lot of people will think this is higher up, and again, I've only got the download. Black Braid's second album. They were in my, I think they were in my top 10 of last year's 2022s with Black Braid 1. Here came Black Braid 2. And now for a lot of people, slicker production, better songs, just a marked improvement in the Black Braid story. And for me personally, I don't think it's as good as the first one. I think I prefer the number 1 over this one, number 2. Don't get me wrong, it's really, really good. And there are some stellar tracks on there. His musical chops have got better. The production has got better on it. Yeah, it's a lot fuller. But I don't know. There were just something that I felt there were many more better releases this year. So that's why, where have I put it again? There's that many, fucking 16. And I struggle to see it being much higher than that, quite frankly. So, yeah, I think it's a great album, but I preferred Black Parade 1. So for that, it makes it to number 16. Cracking, but not top 10 material. Okay. Number 15, and an album that I've only fairly recently discovered over the last couple of months. I feel like it might have been a recommendation off of Altars of Madness. I know that he definitely put it in his end of year list anyway. But I discovered it by someone on YouTube anyway. And it is this, Resin, and the album Solace. Again, I've only got the download. I am looking into getting the physical media though at some point, so I will have that soon. What an album, and what a recommendation. Shout out Altars of Madness. If it was him, I absolutely loved this album. It's doomy, it's atmospheric, I can hear elements of French band Huata Huata, however you pronounce it, that I discovered fairly recently. The atmospheric sludgy doom of them. There's elements of that, but I can hear Electric Wizard all over it as well. I can hear some really nice Floydy moments. There's a track, is it this track Solid, or is the track... Well, anyway, whichever track it is. There's like a saxophone solo comes in on it, and that has got such a Floyd vibe. Yeah. But there's bits of it as well. I think it's the second track, I forget the name of it, that has got a real Bosk vibe to it as well. That kind of post-doom, post-metal vibe to it all. Anyway, safe to say, I enjoyed this album immensely. I think it's an absolute peach, and I will be getting the physical media at some point because it's a belter. But yeah, Resin with Solace. What a record. My number, wait for it again, 15. Okay, top 14, and finally a bit more physical media for you. And my number 14 was this, Purge, Godflesh's new record. I think Godflesh are one of them bands that I think you either like or you don't. And I love them. I've liked almost everything that they've done, quite honestly. And I really like Justin Broderick's side project, that Jesu, however you pronounce it. And I think there's an element of Jesu on here and classic Godflesh. And it just... I liked it. I was glad when it came out. Now, I don't know whether that was partly with having had Godflesh back on my radar from having seen him at 2 Damnations running, 2021 and 2022. And this came out quite early this year in 2023, if I remember rightly. Was it about March or April or something? Can't quite remember. But yeah, I was still in a Godflesh mood, so I sort of latched onto it straight away. And I think it's a ripper. I think it's really, really good. Yeah, it's no street cleaner, but... you know, it's great all the same. Nero, the opening track's great. Landlord, what's the other one that I think it's Permission. And the last track, Executioner, of course, is a cracker and all. I did like that. But yeah, brilliant record. My number 14, I'll keep having to check that. But yeah, I really enjoyed that, and I listened to it quite a lot over the years. So yeah, Godflesh with Purge. Okay, my number 13. Another one that I've only got the download of, and I feel like this was recommended by Altars of Madness as well. But it is, image inserted, number 13, Suda, I think it's pronounced anyway, with her Helvega. Straight up, modern, Norwegian black metal, and an absolute peach. The artwork's great as well, so I will have to get hold of this. And I think the vinyl's got like a sort of Doors front cover, not Jim Morrison Doors, like actual sort of cardboard sort of... Anyway, it looks like there's a lot of effort gone into the vinyl, so I quite like to get hold of that. But yeah, this was a belting record. Like, again, black metal, full throttle, in your face. There's nice atmosphere in there though as well, but some absolutely stellar fucking songs on it. And yeah, I listened to this a lot when it came out, so yeah. There's been some great black metal this year, of which you will see a few more coming up, and this particularly was one of them. And I don't really, when you think of Norway, you think of the classic old second wave scene, but yeah, if this is anything to go by, there's clearly some other great stuff going on over there currently. But yeah, Suda, really enjoyed that, and that's why that was my number 13. Okay, my number 12, and the first appearance from Kris Reifert. It was his second album from his side project, Static Abyss. And this, I really enjoyed the first Static Abyss, but this is head and shoulders above it. This is a real upgrade in quality. And is it much different to Autopsy? No, not really. I mean, this could easily... If you put that on, I would have assumed, without telling me what it was, I would have assumed it were an Autopsy record, I'll be honest with you. There's a little bit more of his other side project that, I don't know if it's still a thing, but Abscess, not Abyss, Static Abyss. His other side project, Abscess, that there's a bit more Abscess on here, a bit more sort of punky styles, but some really good doomy moments on here as well. And yeah, I just think this is a marked improvement from Static Abyss's debut. That was another cracker, quite frankly, but this is ace. And my number, did I say 12? Yes, I did. My number 12. Great album. But he came out with a better one this year, did Kris, right? That you will see shortly. So yeah, that's Static Abyss at my number 12. With, I didn't tell you the name of it, did I? Aborted from Reality. Great album, that. They'll all be listed anyway when I do video out. Okay, my number 11. And again, I don't own the physical of it yet. I felt like I was going to buy a CD and then I ended up getting something else came out. Anyway, whatever. I will get hold of it at some point. But my number 11, are they French? Funerals, anyway, they're called. And the album is Let the Earth Be Silent. This is an immense record. Really ethereal female vocal over the top of it. Grindingly slow, depressing riffage. I absolutely adored it. I thought it was an absolute cracker, and it only just got pushed out. It was in my top 10 for most of the year since it come out, and just got pushed out by something slightly more recent that I loved, and it got shunted to 11th. But an absolute belter of a record. Yeah. If you like your doom metal, incredibly slow with an ethereal female vocal over the top, then this is for you. Check it out. Funerals with Let the Earth Be Silent. Yeah, great record. Okay. We're at the top 10. And you would expect most of my top 10 to be physical media at this point, but not quite, no. There's a few that I haven't got. And this is one that I haven't got, but I will be getting the vinyl because I think I found it fairly reasonably on Discogs somewhere. But now my number 10 is this. Afsky with 100 Jahre, is it called? 100 sorry, yeah. 100 years, does that mean? Anyway, Danish black metal gods, Afsky. Off to Yggdrasil Megdod is one of my favourite black metal records of all time. I think it's an absolute masterpiece. So this was always going to have a tough act to follow for me personally, and they've done more than just these two. But I really enjoyed this record. I think the opening acoustic run of the guitar that takes you into track 1, they're really good, sort of primal melodic black metal. They're just great at what they do, and this is another cracker. And yeah, maybe it should have been slightly higher up than number 10, but I always mark it against Off to Yggdrasil Megdod, and I prefer, that's just so good. And this is really good, but not quite as good as that. But it's still top 10, guys. So yeah, Afsky, make it into my top 10. Number 9. And again, this was slightly higher at first, and it just got pushed as I started having to think about it. But this was a triumphant return from Church of Misery. Got it on the Crash Records exclusive yellow vinyl as well. This is a masterpiece. It's a majestic record. Now, Church of Misery, and I feel like I've said this on another video, Church of Misery, kind of one of them bands that I thought, yeah, they're all right. They're all right. Yeah, not bad. But they never really grabbed me. This album, however, changed all this. This is a proper punch in the throat, is this record. They've got the original vocalist back, I believe. This is the only Church of Misery in my collection, and I need to remedy that, quite frankly. But this is comfortably my favourite Church of Misery record. I can honestly tell you that. And it's an absolute banger. There's just so many greats on it. Most Evil, the Fritz Harman song. Beltway Sniper, of course. Freeway Madness, Boogie, Murder Castle Blues. There's some gems on here. And it's top 10 material, there's no doubt in, and that is why Shirts of Misery comes in at my number 9 with Born Under a Mad Sign. Great record. Yeah. And yeah, hit me with a wallop, that one. A worthy number 9. My number 8, and more black metal for you. It is Minenwerfer with Feuerwaltz, however you pronounce it. But yeah, Minenwerfer, who, all that sounds very German, doesn't it? But I believe they're a Yank band. I think they're a US or a Californian even. The argument could be that Alpenpass is their masterpiece, which it probably is, to be fair, and I do have that over there. But I love this record. It's not as atmospheric and it's not as melodic in places as Alpenpass is, but it is pure in-your-face brutality, and I love it for it. It's just straight from the off. It just fucking hammers away at you. And it is an absolute barrage, and it's a cracker, a cracking record. Do check these out if you've not heard about them. But yeah, comfortably my number 8. Minenwerfer, Feuerwaltz. Could have come in slightly higher. Didn't ultimately, but breathtaking piece of work. And I really liked that record. So yeah, my number 8, Minenwerfer. My number 7, and originally was a lot higher, and this is a lot of people's top doom metal album of 2023. Not quite mine. It is, and I've only got the CD, Ahab's The Coral Tombs. It's an absolute ripper. Funeral, death, doom, majesty. It's crushingly heavy in places. All based on the theme of it is, what's his name's, 40 Squillion Leagues Under the Sea or whatever it's called. But yeah, great concept album, great artwork. I really would like this on vinyl to fully appreciate the artwork. But this is a masterpiece. There's no two ways about it. Yes, it's only my number 7, but it's an absolute gem of a record. Yeah, cracker. And again, listen to it to death earlier in the year. Got lost amongst other stuff later, but I have come back to it recently, and it is great. Maybe will I reassess in a few months and think it should be slightly higher? Probably so, but it's sat at my number 7. Ahab, The Coral Tombs. Okay, my number 6, and this was my number 2 for ages, but it has just dropped off. I think mainly because an album I alluded to earlier, I feel personally has just had a little more lastability about it than this one has. My number 6 is Blut aus Nord with Disharmonium Nahab. Is it the second or third in the Disharmonium trilogy, duet, quadrilogy, whatever the fuck it is? Anyway, I adored this record at first, and it's Blut aus Nord doing what they do best, that really uneasy, nightmare-fueled black metal atmosphere. Yeah, it's just, it's a hard listen. It's a really sort of dystopian, creepy, haunting sort of, it's just uneasy, it's difficult. And the last year's Disharmonium album, I think, just pips this one, and this is why this just slipped to 6, because it was very immediate for me. I loved it, but I feel it's just worn off slightly. It's an album I've not been back to in a month or two, let's put it that way. So, and that is hence why it just slipped, but it is still a masterpiece. It's a cracking record, and you have to check it out if you haven't already done so. But yeah, Blut aus Nord with Disharmonium Nahab, my number 6. Okay, top 5. And we mentioned Kris earlier, and he returns again with Autopsy's latest record. Let me get the title right. Ashes, Organs, Blood and Crits. Gem of a record. Autopsy in Altars of Madness's top 10. He hit the nail on the head, and I agree with him totally. It's almost like Autopsy can sort of do no wrong at the minute. They're just firing. I don't know what Kris has for his brekkie, but it clearly helps with the songwriting process. I just think Autopsy are great. I think they've been consistently good, and even Half a Shit Fun's decent. I think they've been consistently great, but they're just brilliant. They're did it make top 5 last year's album anyway, which I've forgotten the name of that one. But, and again, just consistently great, straight up, no frills, death metal, done Kris style, and I love it, and I continue to love it. and this is another gem. Like I say, he's had 2 out this year. He had the Static Abyss album out as well. That was a cracker, but not as good as this one, personally. So, yeah, Autopsy at number 5. Number 4. And this was difficult. But eventually I settled on 4 with it. It is Bell Witch's new album. It is, right, Future Shadow. Yeah, now this is going to be part of a Future Shadow trilogy, I believe. And this is part 1, The Clandestine Gate. Bell Witch, sorry. Bell Witch are not for everyone. And I appreciate that. But I love it. We've got another hour and 23 minutes or whatever it is of just crushing, brooding, atmospheric wonderment. Is it as good as Mirror Reaper? At the time, I've put it right up there with it. Yeah, I felt. But then over time, I still think Mirror Reaper's got more resonance. I think mainly because it's a more complete part. This feels like a part of a trilogy. It feels like it's building to something. It feels like it's going somewhere. The atmosphere, the artwork is incredible. Look at that. It's great. So you can sort of lose yourself in that while you're there for your hour and a half or whatever the fuck it is while you're listening to it. But I love what Bell Witch do. I think they're great at it. I think they're masters. I was lucky enough to catch them at Damnation last year at 2022 doing the Stygian Both stuff. Stygian Bow, however you pronounce it. And they were mesmerising live. And this is more of the same. It's just, it's great. It's great. I love it. I love it. Now, it was very nearly my favourite Doom release of the year. I just got pipped at the post by another album. But I think mainly because, and I alluded to it earlier, this top 10, top 25 I should say, has been albums that I've listened to, that have grabbed me and have consistently grabbed me. You can't sit listening to Bell Witch multiple times a week. You have to be in the right mood, in the right headspace, in the right frame of mind to listen to it. So I've not listened to this much. Like I say, maybe 2 or 3 times tops, but I adore it. I think it's a cracker. So my number 4, Bell Witch, with Future Shadow, The Clandestine Gate. Right, okay. Number 3, and my top, yes, my top doom metal album of the year. And it is, fanfare, this, Godthrim with Distortions. This is a breathtaking record. It's a cracker. It really, really is. It's what I love about it is it's got so much that Green Sabre aspire to. My band, if you don't know, if you're just watching me for the first time. What I wanted to channel was classic British doom of the late 80s, early 90s. That classic British resurgence of death doom, you know, the deathy element. Basically, I'm talking about the likes of Paradise Lost, My Dying Bride, Anathema. And Hamish of Godthrim was about back then with Solstice, another great band. And yeah, so he's been there and he's done it, and you can hear it in spades on this record. I feel like I like most of, if not all of Godthrim's back catalogue. But this just feels like they've just taken it to another level. It feels like all the components have come together. The addition of Kath adds a great etherealness with the keys and the female vocal on it. And I just think it's all killer, no filler. It's cracking from start to finish, this record. As Titans is a monolithic way to open the album. And it's sort of like, you know, a lot of people think, do you think it's best to open the album with an 11-minute? Yeah, why not when it's of that quality? Then into Devils, which is a more up-tempo affair, shorter length for a start off. And it's brilliant. It's brilliant. It just keeps going on track after track. And my favourite doom metal record of 2023. And yeah, ask me again about it in 2024. Because I'll still be talking about this. Mesmerising. And my number 3, Godthrim with Distortions. My number 2, very, very, very nearly my number 1. What a record. Only got the CD of it. It is Hellripper with Warlock's Grim and Withered Hags. It's such an iconic album title that I don't know why I could never remember it in my head. But what a record. The guy behind this, McBain, James. Anyway, an absolute genius. I mean, this is just, yeah, there's some people that prefer the earlier work, but this is my real introduction. Like I say, you lot on YouTube would not stop fucking twatting on about them. So I thought, right, I need to check this out, and I'm so glad that I did. It's an absolutely breathtaking record from start to finish. I mean, black and thrash, is it? Black and speed metal? Whatever it is electrifying, and it hooked me from the moment I heard it, and I still listen to it now. It's just an absolutely mesmerising piece of work. So nearly my number one. I found my number one that's coming up was a fraction better than this, but only a fraction. Well, for me personally, absolutely breathtaking record. And my number two, Hell Ripper. My number one, 50 minutes. Jesus Christ, guys. Right, let's rein it in. My number one, and it is this. Sorry, on this CD again. Ara, Swiss black metal magnificence. Ara with the final part of their Triad trilogy, Nyx. I love all of the trilogy, but it is just breathtaking. All of the atmospheric genius, crushing riffs, incredible guitar chops, so fast in places as well with the drums and everything. It is just a complete album and a black metal masterpiece for me. I just think Ara are amazing at what they do, and not enough people talk about them. I just think they're magnificent, and this is another case in point. I've got Triad 1 on vinyl. I've not got 2 yet at all, and I've only got this one on CD, but I would like to have the full trilogy on vinyl at some point. But what a way to finish that trilogy. A cracking trilogy. Yeah, if you've not heard this, go out and listen to it immediately. But this, it came out much earlier in the year, and I have not stopped playing it since. I continue to go back to this record. It is a masterpiece. And the reason my number one, because it is, I thought about it, it's my most played record of 2023. It is. So that's that. So there we are, 52 minutes. Let's rein that in. That was my albums of 2023 list. I hope you enjoyed with it and didn't disagree with it too much. Enjoyed with it. Anyway, I hope you liked it. Not sure I'll be back in video form 2023. But if not, I will see you very early in 2024. If there's going to be another one, it might only be a short update, something like that. But thank you for watching. Looking forward to already starting to compile my albums of 2024. Thanks for my new subscribers. Like and subscribe if you haven't already done so. Yeah, it's been a great 2023 for music from my perspective, from my listening perspective. It's been ace. I've loved it. And thank you guys for subscribing and watching. Yeah, let's see what 2024 brings. Like I say, there might be some further announcements coming this year, but watch this space. But until then, enjoy your 2023. Have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year and all of that lark. And if I don't see you before, I'll see you all in 2024. Cheery bye.